What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 51 of the Hoop Venue podcast. My name is Tyler, and as always, I'm joined by my great friend Sean. The Pacers just took a 2-1 lead, man. Game 4, actually, by the time you're listening to this, Game 4 is tonight in Indianapolis. Indiana's got a chance to go up 3-1. I remember, I'll keep going back to that point I had in our preview, where I was like, the realist said this is a very real scenario, and it is the best
Shout
chance
out
the
to
Pacers
you.
have. I've been feeling good about every time a game happens. I've been feeling really good about this take. I said there's a pathway to the Pacers winning this series, and it is they take game 1 in OKC, punch OKC in the mouth. OKC bounces back, makes it 1-1. Then Indiana takes both games on their home floor, and now OKC has to win 3 straight, including one game in Indiana. If they win game 4, the scenario is looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good. I can't wait for game 4. But yeah, we missed the game 2 episode. A bunch of the worst possible case scenario basically fell into place like dominoes for us to miss a game 2 episode. So this is going to be our game 2 and 3 recap, our game 4 preview, all that good stuff. And I'll just throw it over to Sean, man. What have you seen over these last 2 games, and where's your head at?
The Tyrese Haliburton guy isn't even that good, by the way. I don't even know why we hype him up. Steve Nash, who more like Mario Chalmers, if you ask me. It's just unnecessary Mario Chalmers slander. I apologize. No, you're on a roll with takes, because you know what other take that kind of popped into my head just off the blue, off top of the, I don't know what I'm saying now. Is your take when we were previewing the series that this is the highest form of basketball, highest level of basketball that's ever been played?
I don't even feel like that was a take. I feel like that was just
accurate.
It's just either you're going to accept it or you're not going to accept it, kind of thing.
No, but I feel like every game that kind of continues throughout the series, even game 2, which is the weaker game of the 3, because game 1 has a spectacle at least at the end of the game in the fourth quarter. Game 3 is pretty much back and forth throughout the entire way. Even with the way game 2 kind of was, I still feel like with each game that statement, I'm not even going to say opinion or take at this point, that statement just ages better throughout the way the series playing. Rick Carlisle's awesome. I think the coaching chess match has been really, really fun. In game 2, I have to go back, and I'm sure you probably talked about it, so this will be a fun conversation, seeing what you kind of picked up on. But game 2, the Thunder just said, look, we're going to go flat ball screen, with 20 seconds left, with 20 seconds into the shot clock. We're going to create advantage. And game 2 is one of the more masterful Shea performances of his young playoff career as a superstar. You have this year and last year. Yeah. And it was just a masterful display of scoring brilliance, but also adding in the playmaking. And that's kind of the interesting part about Shea, because Shea's playmaking looks like he's turning down shots. That's the best way I could describe Shea's playmaking. It's not Harden, or I don't know why Harden's the first guy I thought of. It's not even, I'll compare him to a more of a peer at this stage of the career. It's not Luka, where Luka's playmaking is him actively looking to playmake, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying this in a disparaging way to Shea, but Shea, when he playmakes, it's, all right, I'm going to not shoot this 17-foot pull-up this time, and I'm going to pass it to Chet in the corner, see if we can get Chet going. I think you or Denver, one of us 3, kind of brought up that point of how selfless Shea kind of was, and picking his spots in terms of his shot selection. Where in game 1 he kind of came out gunning, but Chet has 5 points or whatever the case may have been in game 1. So kind of seeing the back and forth, man. This has been a great series. I put this out on Twitter or X, after game 3. I said, look, man, the Pacers, nobody gave the Pacers a shot. The amount of people, I got a haircut effing finally. And my barber asked me, outside of the crap that Lil Wayne dropped, he asked me what my opinion was on Pacers Thunder. He was like, I ain't gonna lie to you, man. Hey, I think OKC in 5. I really said OKC in 4, but they got a little lucky at the end. I'm like, dog, I'm telling y'all, Indiana is better than everybody. We've been saying this all year. They have a legitimate shot. And now they're 2 games away from a title.
It's crazy, dude. I remember I was talking about this with you, I think off camera, or off podcast, I should say.
Yeah.
I had comments after my game 1 Pacers breakdown of people saying that the Thunder lost on purpose to make the series interesting and all this stuff.
Not tell me that. What?
We're and just all this weird nonsense about the Thunder just didn't try in game one. They were testing the waters, and they're gonna gentleman sweep the rest of the way. I just don't think people want to give the Pacers credit. I don't know what do you think it is that like makes nobody give the Pacers credit? Is it the fact that they weren't a 60-win team? Is it the fact that Halliburton's an unconventional superstar? Like, what is it about the Pacers? Because I watched them and I think beautiful two-way basketball, full court ball pressure like a college team. They're the best in the league at moving the ball, second side actions. They're the fastest team in the league. They've got maybe the best coaching in the league. I look at that and it's just beautiful basketball. What do you think it is that people see when they watch the Pacers throughout this entire playoff run, and just like you still see tweets that are like, I just don't know how the Pacers are doing this. And do you I two-parter question, like, do you think it's at all related to the media coverage of them throughout the season?
So I have three reasons for like the first part of the question. One, the market apparently matters more in the NBA compared to any other sport. Two, their superstar or their best player isn't a score first player, which matters, I guess. And then three, because Miami low-key falls in this category a little bit. Carlisle is probably underrated as a coach, or at least had been underrated as a coach, where you get to a point like Miami where Jimmy, like that 2023 Heat team, okay, I get it, Jimmy went nuts in the playoffs, but like Jimmy was, your casual 20. I'm going to get my 20. I'm going to play solid defense in the regular season. We're at Bam. We have Tyler. We're going to play team ball or whatever. So, and then Miami also kind of undercovered during the regular season in terms of their media coverage or whatever. So not small market, but they weren't this most, heavily covered team. So they fit kind of the two top boxes on the Pacers kind of checklist. But Spo is recognized as an elite basketball coach. Yeah. So when Miami goes on a run in the playoffs, it's, oh, look at Jimmy scoring 51 on the Bucks and walking down Giannis. And oh my gosh, Spo, he's this amazing coach and da-da-da-da, which I'm not saying, Spo isn't a great coach, but it's more universally recognized beforehand even, where now it's like, oh, that Carlisle guy's pretty good. And, well, who cares if Howley doesn't score a lot or whatever? And, I mean, even then, it's, those two things kind of don't get always brought up. And then with the media coverage, man, this is not me, like, playing independent podcaster here. I promise you it's not. But I've had this take for a while now. I am so convinced there's, like, a solid handful of really good media contracted or contractually, you know what I'm trying to say, like people that are employed at your Yahoo Sports, your ESPNs, your Ringers, your Turners, your like this about to be whatever. You have your group. There's a small group that are really, really solid. Everyone else in those networks respectfully suck. So from a coverage standpoint, if I'm a Pacers fan, what am I going to the media for to talk about, to listen to them talk about my best player and downplay his brilliance as a playmaker, as a scorer? And we'll get to that, I'm sure. I mean, I could go listen to Caitlin Cooper, or I could go listen to Setting the Pace podcast, another Pacers podcast who's popped in my head that's really good. Like, what am I doing that for? Or if I'm a Detroit Pistons fan, the hell am I doing listening to ESPN? Like, the way they cover, the way the NBA, and this is the NBA media, like, issue, the way the NBA focuses on their coverage. And Brian Windhorst, like, I think he has some takes where he looks like a complete idiot, but like this way he was kind of cooking. The NBA's problem is they care about media-wise the drama. Like, they don't focus enough on what's actually happening on the court, which is one of the beauties of like the NFL's media coverage, where still gonna be some drama. You still have your first take or your, first things, or I don't even remember, first things first or whatever, and whatever the case may be. But you have your dedicated, nationally televised like programs that are like your NFL Lives. You have your other NFL Network stuff that are really talking about football. And then I can still go to my independent content creators or whatever. So I think it's all those things, man. Like the Pacers just don't get enough credit, and they haven't gotten enough credit for last year's run either. Like we all looked at that as a fluke. I don't know, whatever. I can't speak, but you know what I'm trying to say.
No,
bad
and
podcasting.
Just to add a little context to where I was going with like the fact that they weren't a 60-win team. They started the season 10-15.
Yeah.
And from that point on, it was like they just were not in any conversations about anything. Nobody even thought, like, nobody thought anything about this team for the entire season. It wasn't until the Bucks series was confirmed that people actually started acknowledging what the Pacers were doing, or the fact that Haliburton had been looking like his peak self for 4 months in a row now. After starting 10 and 15, since then, regular season and playoffs included, 54 and 22. That's pretty normal from a finals level team. This is a legitimate finals level team. And I like what you said about like focusing on drama with the national media. It's not even just the drama, it's also the labels. Like, Haliburton is this really unconventional, unique talent where you see the change of pace and driving game. You see the pull up shooting. You see the really high level passing, but also the quickness to get off the ball. He's never pounding the ball into the court and trying to break down our defense as an isolation creator. It's more so, we're going to get into our offense super quick. I'm going to look for this advantage, and as soon as there's even the slightest opening, I'm making the right read to exploit that as a team. And then the Pacers have put all of these great offensive pieces around him to really unlock that level of play. And instead of talking about how this unconventional player can have superstar type of value, the talking point is Tyrese Haliburton a superstar? Why is that the discussion? Why does it matter if he has a superstar label or not? The reality is the Pacers are 2 games away from their first ever NBA championship. He's the head honcho. He's the system. Why? That's what we need to be talking about. We need to be talking about why this works so well, what he's doing to make it work so well, and why the Pacers are 2 games away from an NBA championship.
Yeah, and like we talk about, like, I'm a guy who said like superstar impact, and this is where we've had this conversation about just scoring versus overall like offensive impact. Oh man, I'm gonna get cooked. Anthony Davis like averages more points per game or whatever. AD when healthy, basically for the past 3 years, you're looking like a 26 point per game guy. Like probably 62-ish% true shooting or whatever. Tyrese Haliburton's a better offensive player than Anthony Davis, not because he scores more than AD. He brings more from an offensive impact than AD. Doesn't turn the ball over.
If anyone is cooking you for that, they are not.
AD's efficient. AD scores 25. Elite play finisher.
Yeah, I mean, AD deserves a ton of credit for the caliber of player he is and what he does as a play finisher. But if you put a bunch of pieces around AD and said, "Yo, go lead this offense to historic playoff efficiency, touching the ball 80 or 90 times a game,"
yeah,
not gonna happen. Just simply not gonna happen. And it's just a decision making. It's a playmaking difference. That's what it is.
Exactly. Like, and then I know people are gonna say, "Well, Sean, then okay, is Trey a better offensive player than AD?" Well, the difference between Trey and Haliburton is Trey is significantly more turnover prone than Haliburton is, and not as efficient as a scorer as Haliburton is. So, like, Haliburton provides he provides superstar offensive impact while also significantly improving as a defender. He went from being a legit net negative defensively to still probably being a liability on ball and on ball scenarios. I probably don't love him on the ball still. If he's your worst defender, I guess you're fine in terms of on ball scenarios. But he's like legitimately a really good team defender now.
Yeah, I mean, really good execution on hedges. Really good as the low man. Decent like moments of rim protection too because of his size and length. And that's one thing I even brought up last year. I know he's definitely a better defender now than he was last year. But I would always get in debates with people where I'm talking about like they would compare Trae Young and Tyrese Haliburton as defenders because both were like drastic negatives if you want to give them that label. But my argument was always, yes, they're both very limited defenders, but there's something to be said about the value of just simply being 6'5" with long arms. Like you are just physically capable of doing more.
Just throw those mugs out.
Right, and the Luka thing too. Like Luka has a lot of defensive flaws, but he's 6'7", 6'8", with over a 7-foot wingspan. So his floor as a defender is just automatically drastically higher than these small guards.
Yeah.
It just is. It just is. And now we're seeing Haliburton actually like buy in and then get better with his positioning and stuff. So yeah, just legitimately, and especially in game 3, like just a legitimately good defensive game in game 3. Before we move on, I do want to like go back to the media point for just a second and loop it back to like, I think the media in general has never really done a proper job of educating NBA fan, just like the casual NBA, because if you're tapped into basketball, but like the casual NBA fan on, and I don't mean casual in a derogatory sense. I mean just someone who's casually. I feel like the word casual has turned into like a derogatory thing. Now you're a casual. A casual NBA fan. When I say that, I'm saying someone who will casually tune into a game every now and then, or casually turn on ESPN and hear some news. The media has never done a great job of properly explaining why unconventional players can have superstar level impact, and basketball is the only sport where this can happen. Where like you can have Tyrese Haliburton having a superstar level impact doing what he does, and then you can have a polar opposite player in like Rudy Gobert in 2021 also having a superstar level impact, or Draymond Green also having a superstar level impact at his peak. And I think that's what makes basketball, like, that's why it's my favorite sport. That's why I think it's so nuanced. Like, you can have a player who is a complete opposite. Everything is different, not one similarity, and they can both have a superstar impact. It is the coolest thing ever. We should be celebrating that, not saying, well, actually, this guy's not a superstar because he's not taking 20 shots and emptying the clip in a game. Like, bro.
He's not dribbling the ball 17 times to get it in his bag.
Right, and it's like, that's why I can't buy into the small market thing, because Minnesota's a small market. The NBA will never hesitate to tell us about Anthony Edwards. And obviously it's different because Anthony Edwards is a walking highlight. He just operates differently on the court than Haliburton. But that's where my head's at. That's where my head's at. And like Zion too, like if the Pelicans were really good, Zion would have all of the marketing because he already did. He had the marketing from day one. Haliburton was like this unconventional player. He's got an ugly jump shot. He all this stuff not like this break you down 25 point per game isolation scorer. So then when the Pacers are 2 wins away from the NBA Finals and he's the engine of an all-time great offense, the debate is he a superstar or not? And not, holy crap, this player, we've never seen anything like it. Let's talk about how he's so unique and what makes the Pacers so good because of it.
Now, quick pause, chat. Recognize and understand that we somehow were able to fit Rudy Gobert in this conversation. That's got to be like 35 of the 51 episodes now, at least, that we've been able to fit Rudy Gobert into the conversation. Just record numbers.
It's such a good, like, him and Draymond both are always such a good player for me to like lean on as crutches, because it's just like you can make so many points with their games because they're so unorthodox. Going to be in a heated
GOAT debate, and he's going to bring up 2021 Rudy Gobert to support his case for Braun.
Exactly. After a 15 or so minute intermission about media coverage, Pacers, kind of talking about the finals a little bit, let's get to the basketball. You had a point. Well, I guess I had a point. You had a point about this being the highest level of basketball, and I'd even say this has exceeded my expectations in one way. When I was going into this series, I was thinking the ultimate chess match in this series would be Indiana's offense, OKC's defense. Because you have this high-powered, fast-paced offense that has been basically scheme-proof against this all-time great defensive unit that's been impenetrable. Unstoppable force meets immovable object type thing. And after 3 games, I actually have been more fascinated with OKC's offense and Indiana's defense side of things. And that's not to say the other side hasn't been also incredibly interesting. It's just been a super fascinating 2-way series. But I think the chess match between Shea trying to find space and Indiana trying to limit the role players, and then all of those counters back and forth, the coverages, that to me has been the most interesting part about the series and kind of where I want to start the conversation. So you talked about the flat ball screens. What do you think OKC did well out of that, and what are some of the ways you've seen counters?
So from game 2, I thought one of the more important things was with Indiana defense. I think game 2 specifically, I'm trying to like go back and refresh my memory and see some of the game 3 examples. But from game 2, it felt like it was 2 things. One, I think how early OKC was going to, like I said earlier, like they were going to their flat ball screens with Ihar or with Chet, with some of the other wings or guards that they have too for Shea, with legit 20 seconds in the shot clock, it felt like. They're going to it so quick in early offense. It's almost the equivalent of going pistol action quick, because you're attacking a tilted defense downhill. Because like the reason why pistol works, for example, is if I throw it ahead and I get it right back off a handoff, and you clip my man now, and you're rolling behind it. Now he's behind the play, and we're facing a tilted defense, probably just now turning back around, and now we're playing with the advantage, or scrambling or whatever. And that's where you get Shea being a really masterful playmaker. And that's basically what it was out of the flat ball screen stuff. They're going to it like 18, 20 seconds in the shot clock. Shea's getting downhill because Shea's timing and his, whether it's the deceleration or just his pace in general coming off of ball screens is typically elite. And his eye heart rolling behind. And Indiana, I thought in game 2, tactically, that was probably their worst game tactically in terms of their defensive coverages, whether away from the ball. I hated some of the ways that they were, guarding Shea. We were talking about in game 1, after the game 1 breakdown here on the pod, how they need to do a better job of guarding Shea away from the ball and, sending bodies at Shea. But at least from my perspective, I was more so talking in game 2 about like showing our bodies in the gaps. I wasn't necessarily saying after game 1, hard blitzing Shea. And to a certain extent, they were doing that a little bit at game 3, but I think the game 3 adjustment was more so we are going to be flying around and being active on some of these rotations. Like TJ McConnell gets a great steal, picking off he's actually tagging the roller. He's tagging Isaiah Hartenstein. So Shea tries to skip it out corner to Alex Caruso against a hedge corner, and TJ McConnell picks him off.
There was basically the exact same play in either the third or the fourth quarter where same exact setup. Shea instead hits the short roll instead of the skip pass, and Haliburton picks off the pass to the short roll and then gets a wide open dunk. On the other end, yeah, I'm with you. Those flat ball screens, I hand tracked them for my video, and in game 2, there were 34 ball screens for Shea. 17 were flat, 17 were normal, or actually, I think it might have been a little bit different. I mixed up my stats. It was 17 were set at the 3-point line and 17 were set at half court. Okay. I misspoke, but I know it was a pretty even split between normal angled ball screens and flat. It might be like give or take a few between 17 and 17. And on those plays, the Thunder scored 1.21 points per possession. They scored 1.18 when it was at the 3-point line, 1.25 when it was at half court. They destroyed hedge, they destroyed drop, they destroyed switching, they destroyed every defender. It was just a masterclass in Shea ball screens, like you said, picking the defense apart, picking his spots as a scorer, getting 2 feet in the paint at will, creating plenty of open threes. And I want to pull up 2 plays.
I have one
from game 2.
Go ahead.
One from game 3 to just show how drastic of a difference it was in terms of how Indiana actually went about defending these like ball screens set at the logo. So if I can pull that up real quick. So here's a play from game 2. You've got Shea bringing it up, waiting at about the logo. First thing I want you to notice is empty wings. Nobody on the wings. This is how OKC likes to set up the floor, and it's because they want Shea to be able to turn the corner, have space to attack the middle. Wallace is going to come set a screen at the logo. Second thing I want you to notice, look at where Haliburton's picking up the ball at the 3-point line. There's so much space. You got the flat ball screen. Shea has space to turn the corner. No help in the middle whatsoever because they've emptied the wings. And what do you end up with? Shea getting to the middle of the paint, easy pull-up. Now Let's compare that to a play from the fourth quarter of game 3. Screen is set at the logo. Turner's at the logo. High pickup point. Look at Haliburton. Look at Nesmith. Look at Toppin. Everyone's cheating. No, look at them walling off the middle of the floor. Shea cannot just get to that mid-range pull-up. Nothing there. He kicks it out to Dort. That's a good look. That's a good read. It's a good look. But you're living with...
We talked about it before the series started.
Right. The way you're going to beat OKC is by getting them to miss threes. There's actually another play, I think, right after this that I have. That another one I kind of wanted to talk about. Same thing, right? Screen at the logo. Pick up at the logo. But this time the defense is just like absolutely shameless in that they don't want Shea to get to the paint. Shea has this amazing split. This is like the tightest gap you could possibly split. Shea, brilliant. Look at the help. Look at this. It's a triangle in the paint. This is literally all 5 defenders guarding Shea. And again, the pass to Dort is there, but this is also kind of what we talked about. Once Dort missed the first one, now there's like a level of trust where it's like, do I make the kick-out pass? Shea tries to force the issue. And it's funny because I saw talking points on Twitter that were saying Shea didn't empty the clip. This is about as empty the clip as it gets right here. And couldn't get anything. They actually end up getting it to Chet in the paint, and he draws a foul. Point being, the ball screens got bottled up. That's basically what I'm trying to get at with all of that.
Yeah. And, I mean, they saw it, they got it off rip with the high pickup points like you were talking about. And the biggest thing, and what I mean by really quickly, going back to my game 2 kind of Shea breakdown thing that I was talking about in terms of how they needed to guard them, they started off very much so kind of like how you showed. Look, we're going to kind of, let Shea operate a lot in the middle of the floor. And then they kind of made the adjustment later on in the game, which is what I was talking about earlier. And then Shea just easily diced them up. But Indiana, game 3, the high pickup points, heavy in the gaps. And that was the thing that we talked about heading into the series was the way you beat OKC is it's the delicate balance of figuring out, cool, how do we limit Chet and J-Dub and not just let them go off while also kind of daring some of these guys to, hey, you got to hit a couple.
Yeah.
Because Shea ultimately is probably still going to get his, but you have to, as much as you can, force these other guys to consistently prove that they can make shots. And I said this after game 1 or maybe before the series started. The only 2 series over the past 2 years that OKC has even been in danger of losing has been because of one of those 2 things happening. Dallas last year and Denver this year. They wound up beating Denver, obviously, but only 2 series they were ever in danger of losing. The other 3 series, the role guys, or really Chet and J-Dub were great, but really the only way you beat OKC.
Yeah, and that's actually pretty crazy to think about in game 3 because J-Dub has easily his best game of the series, an efficient 26. And that's something I also kind of wanted to talk about because another big factor for the Pacers in game 3 defensively was just outright denying Shea the ball. Nembhard was glued to him off the ball, especially when iHeart checked in. They tried to get Shea going in off-ball action, and he just couldn't get touches. In game 1, he touched the ball 77 times in 39 minutes. Game 2, he touched the ball 70 times in 36 minutes. And then in game 3, he touched the ball 64 times in 42 minutes. So his most minutes played in the series, his least amount of touches. When he did get those touches, like I said, they were just throwing the kitchen sink at him. He couldn't get anything in the paint. He couldn't get 2 feet in the paint at all. And yeah, they had to turn to J-Dub. And J-Dub was a reliable creator. But it was a lot different in that when J-Dub was going to those flat ball screens and stuff, there wasn't as high of a pickup point. There wasn't any help in the middle. So J-Dub had room to attack, and he did his job. But the point is, when J-Dub's running the offense like that, and they're not forced to bring that aggressive help, now nobody else is involved. What made them so unbeatable in game 2 was not just the fact that Shea had 34 efficiently. It was that Shea had 34 efficiently, and then Wiggins has 18, and Caruso has 20 or 18. Chet has 20, J-Dub has 20. They end up with 5 guys scoring 15 points. That's when OKC's unbeatable because of the floor their defense gives them. If you can effectively hold Shea under 25 points and hold him to limited efficiency, he was 9 for 20 from the field, you can live with J-Dub and Chet performing because now, once you've taken away Shea's creation, Caruso, Wallace, none of those guys are really capable of creating anything. And there were a few times where OKC or Indiana was able to just essentially deny Shea the touch altogether. And then Dort or Caruso was forced to create from a standstill. And you'll just leave that in single coverage and say, prove to me that you can beat me as a scorer. And they couldn't. They just couldn't. And I think OKC's offense effectively collapsed, especially down the stretch.
What's your adjustment if you're OKC?
I had a couple ideas in mind. I think one is because of the way they're defending Shea, Nembhard just glued to him, not leaving him. Even when J-Dub, one adjustment from OKC that worked really well in the third quarter was they put Shea one pass away from J-Dub on the wing, then did the ball screens with J-Dub driving towards Shea. And because Nembhard's glued to Shea, there's just no help whatsoever. And I like that adjustment. My next adjustment would be, okay, let's use Shea as a screener now because Nembhard's not going to help. He's not going to step off the screen. He's just going to stay glued. So if you get Shea setting back screens and off-ball action, there was one play in the fourth where Shea set a back screen for Chet to cut, and you got a wide-open layup. That's the type of stuff I want to see in Game 4. Lots of Shea screening. I think one other kind of tweak that worked a little bit in Game 3 was the flat ball screen stuff. Like I talked about the high pickup point. The way they were kind of able to counter that was by having iHeart flip the screen at the last second, and that's something they really like to do. I think that if you want to keep running Shea through the flat ball screens, you got to do the last second flip because that's a way to burn the really aggressive
screen?
edge. Yeah, exactly. And iHeart and Brunson had that down to perfection last year. And then also like this defensive strategy to me is really similar to what Denver did. So maybe your adjustment is like what you did against the Nuggets, and it's kind of abandon the ball screen stuff and just go early offense, top of the key isolation for Shea, and trust him to just get to his spots in the mid range and then get to those like passes to the dunker spot. They like to go to like the 4 flat ISO setup against that kind of zone look. I don't know. What do you think?
I think I love the idea of having Shea, as a screener. That was easily the number one thing I thought of. Even if you went Shea as the flat screener, because now I think if you give J-Dub a running lane downhill, that just puts Nembhard in such a tough spot. And I think Aaron Nesmith's a really good defender. I think Shea would probably prefer like a one-on-one ISO with Nesmith in this scenario. And then Nembhard, if he tried to switch off, I think it's just a lose-lose for Indiana. Because if Nembhard tries to switch off, I don't know if he's going to be in position as quickly as you would need him to be to prevent a downhill J-Dub drive going 1 billion miles per hour or just coming full speed at you and attacking. Or, okay, cool, you also have Chet, you have iHeart in the dunker spot as well. The help wants to come up. So I like that adjustment personally. I love the idea that you as the having Shea as a back screener. Any action, honestly, away from the ball where he is used as a screener, as long as Shea does his job and sets a real screen, it's either a wide open shot or 2 is going to force a switch. Which, to your point, that's where you just go immediately. Okay, cool, we're going to go top of the key ISO for Shea at that point. Yep. I think the other thing is when talking about OKC's offense, I like the idea a lot. This goes back to the whole, this isn't maybe even a ball screen series. And Dallas was pretty notorious for this last year in terms of how they would play their ISO stuff with Kyrie and Luka. And like you said, OKC is doing that a lot more this year, where we're just going to put Shea and J-Dub on the opposite wings or opposite slots or whatever. And there's a couple possessions where J-Dub drives and Nembhard does try to, plug the gap and, recover. Honestly, the other adjustment is if in game 4, let's say, because J-Dub honestly was kind of killing them off of this in the second half, where look, I'm gonna get downhill at Nesmith. If you want to help, okay, fine. I'm gonna be so far into 2 feet in the paint, it's not gonna matter anyway. Low key, very low key, a small adjustment would be Shea. Like, you got to be ready to like catch, shoot threes. I know he's only taken like 2 or hit 2. I forget what the actual number is in the playoffs. It's super low volume.
He was 1 for 10 before the finals, and then he had 2 catch and shoot threes in game 1 and game 2. He had a catch and shoot 3.
It's a super small like micro adjustment, but low key, because there's a possession in the third quarter where crap, I just had it up. There is a possession in the third quarter where they go flat ball screen with Shea at the opposite wing. J-Dub gets downhill. Nembhard does kind of get in the gap, and the pass is there, but Shea is so much not a catch and shoot threat to the point that I think we said like you said on the playback, we're like, oh wow, Shea's taking catch and shoot threes now. As a small micro, just because now it just changes some of the dynamic for what Indiana wants to do. Because now it's J-Dub. You're getting clear blow by driving lanes. One pass away, there is no help right there. I think OKC could do some things with their floor alignment to really kind of attack what Indiana's doing.
And a lot of that comes back to simply getting more offensive talent on the court. That was another adjustment I kind of talked about. Wiggins was huge in game 2. He had 18 points in 20 minutes, self-created a bunch of good looks. If Shea's going to be getting this type of defensive attention, a third perimeter creator just moves the needle that much more, because like some of those examples I just pulled up on screen, when the entire defense is in the paint, Imagine you're kicking it out to a guy in Wiggins who now is able to create against a closeout. And you also have J-Dub on the court and Chet on the court. That's 4 guys who can effectively put the ball down and attack a closeout. That's kind of how you break this type of aggressive rotating defense. And another guy is Isaiah Joe. He played 4 minutes in this game. And during those 4 minutes, he was very valuable offensively just off of the sheer fact that he's someone who has to be guarded. There was one play that go to him with the flat ball screen, Haliburton hedges, and then Joe immediately pops out for an open 3. There was another play where they went to the flat ball screen, and the floor setup was beautiful. Shea was at the logo. Caruso ran up from the dunker to set the screen. They had Chet strong side corner. They had J-Dub 1 pass away, and then Joe weak side corner. And it's like, who do you help off of to protect the middle of the floor? There's no one there. And then Shea gets down the middle of the lane. That's the one layup he gets in this game. So I do think the main thing is getting more offensive talent on the court. And I guess this is a perfect flip to the other side of things, because the reason Wiggins played 9 minutes and the reason Joe played 4 minutes is because a guy by the name of TJ McConnell put them in every single action and torched him. Shout out TJ McConnell, man. Shout out to the Pacers.
Wait. There's one other guy. You probably should have said
Benedict Mathurin.
Well,
is that who you're talking about?
Yeah.
I was going to say, yeah, the whole bench. TJ McConnell, 10 points, 5 assists, 5 steals in game 3. Benedict Mathurin, I think, finished with 27.
Yeah.
And we could go to the Benedict Mathurin conversation, because I think it's so fascinating, because he's always been labeled as this high tool, low feel type of player where you can see like the makings of there's a really good basketball player here, but he hasn't quite figured out everything in terms of what type of reads should I be making, where should I be positioned on the court.
Yep.
Where am I supposed to be off ball defensively? And what's ironic about this is I feel like he kind of had that label as a like scorer who does nothing else. That was kind of the label placed on him. But what's gotten him on the court throughout these playoffs has been the on ball defense, has been the pressure. And then it's like, oh, when he's got it going offensively, now we're just talking about this on ball pressure guy who's also a really good scorer. It's kind of like the Nemhard thing to a lesser extent. But I think there's 2 things with Benedict Mathurin that just make me so excited about him as a player. And it is the ability to draw fouls. That's always one of the first things I look at with a young prospect scorer. Like, this guy is a foul drawing machine. There was a game in the Knicks series where they just could not keep him off the line in the third and fourth quarter. And he just ends up with shooting like 10 or 11 free throws. And then same thing, game 3. Just can't keep him off the line. Can't keep him from creating contact. Second thing, deceleration. This guy is so good at stopping on a dime and getting to a mid-range pull-up or creating separation for the finish, which goes hand in hand with the foul drawing. You got someone who can initiate contact and decelerate at a high level. That right there is what you need to be a really good driver and really good on-ball defender, because it's the same thing. He can initiate contact and get physical as an on-ball defender, but then he has the deceleration to stick with those changes of speed. And yeah, Benedict Mathurin, MVP of Game 3, like just a masterclass.
Yeah, like even if you go this possession here, and this might be considered foul baiting, but it's not Brunson and it's not Shea, so nobody cares. Like this possession here, just based off how OKC's playing this off rip, it's probably pull up. Chet's kind of Chet's in a drop. If he tries to chase, we'll probably try to keep him in jail, but we're looking pull up. That's actually a pretty bad screen by Miles Turner. But Joe's chasing, keeps him in jail, knows he tried to get in front of him. That's not even, I'm not even going to say that's a foul bait. You know why? Because he understands Isaiah Joe's trying to get back in front, which means I'm probably going to have my hand somewhere and I can just go up and that's a foul. And I'm glad you kind of brought up some of the feel stuff with Benedict Mathurin, because I had a top 10 grade on when he came out in 2023. Maybe it's 22. I forget which class it was. It might have been 22.
I think it's 22.
Super athletic guy that projected as a 3-level scorer. They had some defensive tools or whatever. And I think I said this off podcast. I guess we can't say off camera because we are still on camera. Hi camera.
Always watching.
Always watching. Oh no, wait, don't watch.
We're on camera. The government saw us having this conversation, but the podcast people did not.
Just basically talking about how this was, it kind of, he's had good stretches before, But I think we almost made the joke on the playback the other night that Benedict Mathurin's going to have like 2 good plays in a row and then immediately have just one where he doesn't make the right play or isn't in the right spot positionally, defensively, or his timing on his cut was just off. But this felt like one of the first times that he kind of just put it all together. Really, a two-way masterclass, honestly, coming off the bench for Benedict Mathurin, where the feel was there. Like you said, the ability to just draw fouls at a high level and put pressure on the rim and also just be a shot maker off the bench for Indiana. Super, super, super great game for Benedict Mathurin.
Also, easily Haliburton's best game of the series. 22 points, 11 assists. They kind of shifted his usage a little bit. I think the main thing was just a Haliburton shift to being more aggressive. He was hunting for that floater specifically when he was turning the corner.
Yeah.
Because those deep floaters have been there 12 to 15 feet, and he had a couple of those. But also they moved him off ball a little bit, which goes hand in hand with putting the ball in Nembhard's. Oh my gosh, before I move off of that change of pace, step back midi from Nembhard in the fourth quarter, when Caruso just flies by him. Oh, just filthy, dude. Nembhard is filthy. But putting the ball in Nembhard's hands, putting the ball in Mathurin's hands, putting the ball, also they shifted Siakam's touches to the nail and emptied the wings. They went 4 flat, Siakam at the nail. I like that for his touches. He had a quick 6 points in the first quarter. Some nice offensive tweaks from Indiana, and it's honestly, even though Haliburton had his best game of the series, even though Rick Carlisle had a masterclass in offensive coaching, I actually think this Pacers win comes down to 4 factors. I think 1, we already talked about, the defensive strategy. Shifting your approach, getting more aggressive against Shea for the first time this series. You hold OKC to a 106 offensive rating after giving up a 127 in Game 2. By the way, the Thunder shot 46% from 3 in Game 3 and had a 106 offensive rating. So just a defensive masterclass. Second big factor, Benedict Mathurin just being as good as he was off the bench. Third big factor, TJ McConnell being as good as he was off the bench. You mentioned the free safety type plays he made in the passing lanes. He also had 2 inbound steals, I think. Like I said, he was hunting mismatches offensively. He had some great shots. He had some great passes. Fourth factor, Obi Toppin in the second half. Oh my goodness. Everywhere. The best defensive game I've seen him play.
49 bench points for the Pacers.
Yeah, and that was the deciding, I guess you could come down to 2 factors. Defensive strategy, bench offense. Because you look at the plus-minus stuff, and it's I think Toppin was a plus 18 or something like that, and Mathurin's a plus 15, McConnell's a plus 12, something like that. And some of the starters were negative in this game. And they still win because the bench just got it, the staggered minutes got it done. I'm looking at it right now. Miles Turner, -8. Miles Turner, -8. Obi Toppin, plus 18. TJ McConnell, plus 12. Benedict Mathurin, plus 16. Benedict Mathurin had 27 points on 12 shots. Indiana only shoots 33% from 3 in this game.
They only got 27 threes up, too, I thought, right? They shot 9 for 27, I thought.
9 for 27, yep. And Haliburton was 4 for 80, though. So outside of Haliburton, it was 5 for 19.
Yeah.
0 for 3 from Toppin, 0 for 2 from Shepherd, 1 for 4 from Turner, 0 for 2 from Siakam. Only 2 3-point attempts for Nesmith. Man, this was a hell of a game for Indiana. That really is what it comes down to.
So I'm going to ask you the ESPN question. Is Game 4 a must-win for the Thunder? Oh, wait, no, they're probably going to phrase that as must-win for the Pacers because then if the Thunder win and they go back, that's going to be their logic.
It's, honestly, and this could age very poorly, I think it's a must-win for both teams. And everyone who's asked me where I'm at in the series, I've said Game 4 decides this series. If Indiana wins Game 4, I'm not saying OKC has no chance of coming down 3-1. I just think it is a very tough task to beat this Indiana team 3 times in a row. If OKC wins Game 4, 2-2 going back to OKC, I think OKC's got the series in the bag. I think if you have 3 games, if it is an even series and there are 3 games left and 2 of them are played in OKC, I think OKC just has such an overwhelming advantage. That's not to say OKC could win Game 4 and Indiana can't win the series, or if Indiana wins Game 4, goes up 3-1, OKC can't pull off the impossible. I'm just saying, in my opinion, the winner of Game 4 is going to win this series. And that makes it even more exciting that I will be in the building for Game 4. I will be there live for the first time ever in a playoff game. I couldn't be more excited, but yeah, I think Game 4 wins the series. What about you?
I mean, historically, you would also be correct if the Pacers go up 3-1. It's only been like one team to come back down 3-1 in the finals.
And they had somebody.
They had Tristan Thompson.
Kyrie Irving.
Oh,
Kyrie Irving.
They did have that Kyrie guy. Tristan Thompson, though, I heard, was robbed the finals MVP. No, so yeah, I mean, I'm going to agree because I think historically. And then also, OKC had, like you said, 3 games, and 2 of them are on their home floor. Indiana did prove they can win on their home floor, but in OKC, excuse me, but still, mathematically speaking, it just favors OKC in that way. Does Shea gain or lose? This is such a stupid question. It's late. Does Shea gain or lose aura if he comes back down 3-1? Like, no, I'm for real. Like, is it a good look on Shea? Like, on one hand, you should have been down 3-1. On the other hand, aura points, you came down 3-1, second team ever. You see the dilemma we're in?
I might just end the episode. Asking me about aura. What are we doing, man? No,
still better content than ESPN.
Anyone coming back 3-1 immediately gains
aura.
Ridiculous aura. Dude.
Yes, he said.
Look at LeBron. Like, has anyone ever gone, oh, LeBron went down 3-1 to the Warriors? Like, no, never. It's all about the comeback. It's all about the picture with the headphones. It's like, that is like the most legacy, and there'd be like no more perfect way to, I guess it's different because it's a 73 win team, like going down 3-1's a little bit different, but that just goes back to where we started. The Pacers are really freaking good, so going down 3-1 to them isn't some unfathomable, like, the Pacers are a good freaking team, man. I think Carson said before the series from Nerd Sesh that since January 1st, the 2 teams with the best record are the Thunder and the Pacers.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like, it's not a fluke that they're here. If they go up 3-1, it's not a fluke.
That's my favorite saying. That's my favorite saying. I say that all the time. I'm just quoting Braun now.
Okay. By the way, yeah, 3-1 comeback, LeBron James. I forgot to mention that if Shea comes back 3-1, yeah, maybe there will be a 3-1 comeback if Siakam gets suspended and Miles Turner gets injured. No, I'm trolling.
Starting 5 for game 5 is going to be Haliburton. Why is this supposed to be low-key still solid? It's going to be Haliburton, Nembhard, Neesmith. Oh, never mind. I realized.
You know why it's still going to be solid? You know why it's still going to be solid? And I want to finish off on this point. I said at the beginning of the season, talk about takes aging beautifully. Beginning of the season, I had this huge, like, Twitter, like, kind of, I want to say argument, but I had, like, a huge, like, take that people were really, really passionate about. I said, we are at a point in the NBA, and maybe it's always been like this, but it's definitely more extreme now than it ever has been. And I guess this goes back to the media coverage of not really knowing what to do with the Pacers. We are in an era of the NBA where 3 through 8 of a roster is so significantly more important than 1 and 2 of a roster.
Oh, yeah, you got cooked for that.
I got cooked for that.
Isn't that when you start, you try to say, all right, look, put LeBron and AD on Boston and, like, flip Tatum and Brown or something like that?
And then I also made the argument, and I said, if you took Tatum and Brown and gave them, like, 7 replacement level players in rotation, as opposed to Derek White, Pritchard, Hauser, Porzingis, Horford, whoever, like 7 Celtics players, and then give them, like, 1 more replacement level player, the team without Tatum and Brown would have been better than the team with Tatum and Brown. And it's so hard for people to wrap their heads around that the fact that, like, not just depth, but just, like, legitimate good NBA quality players. The Pacers have 10 of them. They have 10 players who are just legitimate positives on the court.
Oh, so that must had nothing to do with LeBron. I just found a way to loop Bron to the conversation.
No, but it did because I did make that argument as well. The LeBron and AD, like, if you put LeBron and AD and give them Derek White, Porzingis and Horford and Drew Holiday, I forgot to mention, yeah, they'd be a pretty freaking good team. And it's not necessarily just about the 2. The only time I would say, like, a duo had so much of a substantially gargantuan impact in this era over the rest of the team was the Nuggets. Like, that was Murray and Jokic. And also, like, I don't want to take away from Aaron Gordon because he was amazing in that run. But, like, and, like, Bruce Brown had good contributions, KCP. But, like, that run was Jamal Murray and Jokic just blitzing every team offensively with their 2-man stuff. But besides that, it's mostly been about the supporting players all showing up at the right times and then having these key games. Like even last year's finals, the Celtics, I think it was game 2, Drew Holiday just has a masterclass. And like people were actually debating, is Drew Holiday the finals MVP up to this point? Like I remember that was a legitimate talking point because he had such a big game 2 to put them up 2-0. But yeah, now we're seeing it. Mathurin off the bench, 27 points. TJ McConnell off the bench, 10, 5, and 5. Toppin off the bench. And then for OKC, it's been Caruso all run. It's been Wiggins in game 2. It's been Kenrich Williams had some moments. Like the ability to go into your bench and get flexible with your lineups and get two-way contributions from your 9th and 10th guys is why the main reason why OKC and Indiana are in the positions that they're in. And I think, honestly, I saw a graph come out. Actually, I want to pull this up. I hope I can remember who made it. It was the payrolls of every team. The payrolls of every team, like how far they're going into the luxury tax. And the Pacers and Thunder were both like near the bottom of the graph in terms of payroll. And I wanted to fire off a take, but I didn't actually get into it. And I think the best, like the championship teams from now on with this new CBA are simply going to be the teams that just do the best job of building a budget roster. Like that can afford to have 9 positive players in their team.
Yeah.
And we kind of saw it with Minnesota against the Lakers. They just simply had more positive players, more players that could go to. I didn't even do that on purpose. I didn't even do that on purpose. It just popped in my head, man. I promise. I promise that was not targeted towards Sean. It was just where my head was at.
He could have stayed on the Pacers and went Pacers Knicks, or went I don't know.
That's no fun. That's no fun. I feel like anyone who just listens to this podcast like occasionally will catch these little tidbits and be like, man, this guy hates the Lakers.
Man.
But it's not intentional. Well, sometimes it's intentional, but it's intentional just to go at Sean, not the Lakers. Just to go at Sean. Just to go at Sean. Just wait till he starts head coaching, and I'm looping everything back to his head coaching mistakes.
Oh, well, I made one today, so go ahead. Yeah. We had like 3 games today. We're not going to talk about it.
3 games today? What was your record?
0-3. 3-game losing streak.
It's all good.
Granted,
It's
new team. New team,
yeah. New team, new coach, figuring out the system. Pacers started 10-15.
There we go. Hey.
You're going to be a 60-win team by January 1st.
By January 1st.
When does the high school season officially start? Because right now it's not like official high school season, is it?
No, it's just June ball stuff. First high school game is November 28th.
Interesting. I'll have to be in attendance. I better get an invite.
I mean, sure. I mean, if you want to take, what's that, 4-hour drive for you?
4-hour drive to pull up to the high school basketball game. And
W Mans. I will say W Mans. That would be W Mans.
Watch Sean just drop a coaching disaster class.
Oh my God!
Get blown
knock
out.
on. Well, if we get blown out by, I'm not gonna say that on the podcast. Never mind. Let's.
Oh.
I am not gonna go that direction.
You were about to start having some negative media coverage like our friend. You were about to start doing some. You were about to ask if the other team has a superstar or not. No, back to the just closing final. Do you have any other like things you kind of want to talk about with the final series and where it's at?
I mean, this is more so just a take I've had for a little while now. I really hope we like Chet just gets a full summer to get all the way back right, and like he gets a full season and not having anything to not even rush back from, but still clearly in some cases hamper him, if that makes sense.
I'm with you, and that kind of relates to, can he please get a quicker release? Like,
I think he's just lost the quickness in general.
There's no release. Like, the release is so slow and it's so low. All of the advantages that come with being a 7'1" shooter are lost by the fact that he can't shoot over smaller defenders. Like, you look at Porzingis, ball is high, ball is quick.
And when he catches it, the ball's here.
Right.
He doesn't.
Anyone closing out, there's no chance. Even centers can't contest it. There was a play. There were multiple plays in the fourth quarter of Game 3 where Chet had an opportunity to shoot the ball and just couldn't get it off in the tight window. Then tried to create off the catch and couldn't get any separation. Then there was one where he actually pulled the trigger from 3 and Turner just destroys it. Like, just destroys the 3. So yeah, I'm with you. I do want to see a full offseason from Chet, and I want to see a tweak to the release because that is, in my opinion, like the main thing holding back his. I would say the two main things holding back his offensive value right now are the release speed and how that limits his ability to get threes off at volume, and then tunnel vision. Anytime he gets the like 2 feet in the paint, the ball's going up, no matter what. Like no, there's no kickouts ever. And I do think with the way Indiana's been aggressive in the paint, Chet has the touch and athleticism to still like finish at a high clip. But there are a ton of opportunities where like you'll see Shea and J-Dub on an island on the perimeter, and Chet's just going up on 4 defenders. And I think that's got to be like one of the main things to really work on. And then of course just getting his body right, getting his athleticism right, because we've talked about he just isn't as flexible as he was at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
And also, before we get out of here, I kind of wanted to just like jump back to another thing that really stood out to me, and I'll pull up the clips from the difference between games 2 and 3, because that's kind of where I've been like going back and forth all day today, just game 2 and 3. What was different? Why did Indiana do so good defensively? And one last thing I want to talk about real quick before we get out of here. It's a little nice nugget because anyone still watching probably assumed we were done with the analysis when we started talking about high school basketball and stuff, but we're just jumping right back into
too,
it.
but yeah, let's keep
part
going.
2 of the episode. We're just gonna do another hour.
Let's mind the game here.
So one big adjustment in game 2 by OKC in the second half was to start posting up Shea. And Indiana didn't want to leave him in single coverage, so they decided they weren't prepared for this at all because Shea hadn't posted up really in the playoffs at all before this point. And they were just like, OKC decided in the third quarter of game 2, we're going to start posting up Shea and see what Indiana can do. And Indiana had no idea what to do, so they were just doubling from one pass away up top. Like Neesmith doubles off J-Dub, and the ball got moving. That's a great shot right there.
Good
That's
doink.
a great shot. And you know what's funny? OKC, I hand tracked this again. Second half, I counted 6 post-ups for Shea, 1.67 points per possession.
Sheesh.
And one of those scoreless possessions was an open 3. So they very well could have had over 2 points per possession. Game 3, they were ready. Shea's going to post up. In game 2, it would have been Mathurin who's coming to double. 1 pass away up top. Instead, look who comes to double. Haliburton. Opposite wing. Force Shea to make the skip pass. It gets through. Joe gets an open 3. But the idea is kind of what you talked about at the beginning of the episode, like Indiana flying around. Post up on an empty side. Halliburton's going to come to double from the opposite wing. Joe's going to cut in the slot. Toppin tags. Then Turner gets ready to rotate. Closes out to Dort. Toppin fills out to Chet on the baseline. Just beautiful scrambling. Beautiful scrambling out of that. Make Shea make a long pass.
Hell yeah, Obi.
Instead of making the easy pass, 1 pass away and the ball gets moving. And also you can kind of expose some of Shea's limitations. Like we've talked about how maybe the only thing keeping him back from being like a GOAT offensive candidate is the fact that his passing vision lacks a little bit behind like that tier of player. Look no further than this play right here. Shea gets the post touch. Toppin comes from the opposite wing to double. And honestly, I want to talk about the attention to detail too. Like Mathurin knows where the double's supposed to come from. Look, he immediately points and is looking back to make sure Toppin gets over there. The backline completely botches this. Look at Chet. Nobody guards Chet. This is a dunk. And what does Shea do? That's got to be a pass to Chet. That's a dunk. That's a dunk right there. And I think with these more disguised, like rotation heavy coverages, you're really seeing Shea tested to be a decision maker. You talked about the skip passes they're forcing him to make with the aggressive low tags. Shea turned the ball over 6 times in this game for the first time in his playoff career. Mm-hmm. So he will be tested in game 4 to make these tough passing reads. And that's part of why I think it's so fascinating, the chess match between Shea and OKC's offense and then Indiana's defense. I cannot wait to see what happens in game 4.
In person.
In person, yes. My first ever playoff game. Actually, it's my first NBA game since January 2022. It's been a minute.
Did you say that was Steph? I mean, I don't know why I said Steph. Warriors Bulls.
I don't want to talk. It was Steph, but I don't want to talk about it.
All right.
I bought some ridiculously expensive tickets for anyone who doesn't know the story to see prime Steph. I wanted to see Steph. The Warriors were a championship level team. This was Clay's 3rd game back. Or 4th game back maybe in Milwaukee. We got the defending champion Bucks. We got the 2-seeded Warriors with prime Steph. Steph shoots like 3 for 20. Bucks win by like the game was over in the second quarter, and I was traumatized. I haven't been to an NBA game since. So if I show up to game 4, I'm ready. I got my notebook out. I'm taking notes.
Good notebook.
I got my notebook out. I'm taking notes.
If you
on
don't
the
get
coverages.
hammered and take drunk notes about the game in your phone and rewatch it later.
No, I'm coming with a physical notebook, pencil, wooden pencil, number 2 pencil.
All right, man.
I'm taking notes. No.
Bro's expected
If
to
I
get
show up to
quizzed
this
by Rick
game-
Carlisle on Shea post-up double teams in the media
Exactly.
presser.
Exactly. I'm going to have like a high quality camera angle just specifically for my game 4 breakdown video. Like I'm going to have angles that nobody's ever seen before and be like, yeah, I actually physically went to the game to record this for the video. It's all just a setup for my next video. No, yeah, if I show up to this game and it's like a game 2 in Denver, you know, like when OKC just like the game's over in the second quarter, I'll be a little disappointed. It'll still be an awesome experience going to a finals game, but I'll definitely be a little bit disappointed and be like, damn, the first 3 games have been nothing but magic. And then I show up and it's this. All I'm hoping for, I don't have a dog in this fight. I actually am wearing the Pacers colored HV right now, so maybe I do have a little dog. No, I have no dog in this fight, but I just want a good basketball game. That's my dog in the fight.
That is also my dog.
That's the good dog to have. That's a great dog. It's the best
I like
breed.
Shea. I like Callie.
Okay. Do you have anything? Are we just gonna get back to pulling up clips? Like, do you have anything else to add on this series, or any hot takes for like what's coming up, like what you expect to see?
Nah.
Just wait and see what happens.
I'm excited
That's
for Game
kinda
4,
where I'm
though.
at.
Like,
I think
go.
I was just gonna say, like, what's so fun about covering this series is Mark Daigneault and Rick Carlisle are both like 2 of the craziest coaches in terms of what they're willing to try and what they're willing to do. And it's funny, like you and I feel like are pretty well versed on what's going on and what's gonna happen, and like the level of basketball knowledge between like us and then like Rick Carlisle and Mark Daigneault is just so insane that we just have no idea what to even like. It's just like, well, we'll wait and see what happens, then we'll cover it after the fact.
Was that game 1 where we were like, so yeah, what zone? What zone are we looking at?
Yeah, what zone is this? And then it turned out to be a 3-2 that turns into a 2-3 after a pass.
Yeah. Off of ball
It's like,
reversal.
bro, what are we doing?
Like, it's almost like watching a Spo series when Spo has a good team. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
not whatever.
I remember Ben Taylor I think it might have been a video or it might have been a podcast that I was watching during like the 2022 or 2023 playoffs. And he like compared Eric Spoelstra to a mad scientist who's trying out potions and stuff. And it's like, yeah, that is the way to describe it. He's just doing different combinations and getting an experiment, and it works every time.
These are 2 of the best tacticians in the game, and Game 4 is going to be awesome.
Can't wait. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to drop a like, 5-star rating, all that good stuff. Make sure to check out our other social media accounts. Sean's on Twitter at Sean_DAVI. It's on Instagram at Sean_Davis23. He's on YouTube at The Sports Headline Show and the Los Angeles Lakers Network. All of my personal accounts are Tyler Britton_. And of course, you can find all of my main basketball content on Hoop Venue on all platforms. Also, it would be greatly appreciated if you would drop some knowledge in the comments for us. Right, Sean?
Why'd you wipe your nose? What's going on there?
The allergies are coming in. It's getting late. It's getting late. That had nothing to do with nothing. Just coincidence. Drop some knowledge in the comments for us. We love to hear the knowledge. If Rick Carlisle and Mark Daigneault are listening to this episode, we would love to hear your takes on what's going to happen in Game 4. No, in all seriousness, we really appreciate you guys listening, and we will catch you guys next time after Game 4 with episode number 52.